Hey, welcome to another episode of Mechanical Mike. What we're doing today is working with Justin Dahl. This is his van. See how the growing need for a mobile lifestyle, nomadic lifestyle is becoming pretty popular. We decided to go ahead and show you how to hook up your van or truck or whatever you need to a DC inverter, and then also add a battery so you can have some extra power while you're on the road. This is the back of the van. He's got it all set up. He built a bed here. He's got some shelves for where he would be cooking, and you can see a fridge down in there in the center. Here's the inverter right to the side, so you can plug appliances or charge your phone or whatever you need. He also cut in this fan, electric fan, which is hooked up to it. And then those are all going to run back to this additional battery right here, this slave battery essentially. So this is a 100 amp hour, essentially a solar battery, and you can find them all on Amazon, fairly inexpensive. You can see the 200 amp fuse, which is going to that, and I'll explain that all here in a moment. But this just gives you an idea. So we're going to start at the front and work our way back. So first thing we need to do is run this wire. You can see this is coming off the positive terminal of your existing battery, and it's running through this fuse here, and then it goes over here to the relay. So it's feeding from here to the relay, and then it's a little harder to see, but down inside there, I'm not sure if we can get to it. You can see that other blue line. It's going down and disappearing in the under the engine compartment. I'm gonna come down underneath so you can see where we ran it. Make sure, you might decide to run it inside the car, which is fine. This just helps us keep it out of the way. And you can see it right there running down underneath. Make sure you don't run it too close to the exhaust or it's gonna melt. And then move over here. And tracing it down, we just tucked it up and away where it's not gonna be interfering with moving or mechanical parts. It's running back down behind the gas tank. Pull out here. We did drill a couple holes for a better passage, so it comes through underneath, right there around behind the tire, under where the bumper is, and we just put a couple zip ties on that side. And if we move over here, let's see, runs through there, up underneath, and right up to where our battery's at. And where it comes through the metal, you can see we put a grommet, and when you tighten that down, it holds it in place, and it also keeps it from getting frayed on the metal. So that's an important thing to do when you drill your holes for your wire to feed your positive from your existing battery to your slave battery. Make sure that you drill those holes larger than the diameter of the wire, so it's got room to move in there and it's not going to catch up and get cut up or frayed and then ground out. So you can see where it punches up right here, comes up through the wall, around back, and then we have another fuse. So you have one fuse pre-relay and then one post-relay. So we got a 200 amp fuse there, comes into this side, out that side, and then right here to the positive. And also on this positive, I've got the inverter hooked up, and then the fuse panel. So you have not the fuse panel that's existing on the car, but the fuse panel we added, which is right here. So we made it all pretty accessible. And we're only using 2 of these slots, but we left room so that you can add additional things in the future if you wanted to. Right now we've just got his refrigerator and his fan. And so this is real easy to be able to add things in the future. Right here is the inverter. That's the other positive coming off the battery. And it's right here. So anything we hooked up to this fuse panel, we either just grounded it out right to the metal, because your entire car is grounded. So you don't need to run 2 cables all the way from your battery back to the slave battery. You can just run your positive from the battery back, and then your negative cable, you can see back there, we just ground it off so there's no paint, and then attach it to the metal. And we just drilled a hole with a metal tapping bolt, and that worked for us. And so you can do that. You can also, maybe if you wanted to go down to the floorboards here, if it wasn't wood, if it was metal, you could go to that if you wanted to, as long as you get a good solid ground. And then so that's grounding that battery. You can see right here we just grounded out his refrigerator on some existing bolts in the car, and that's always a good choice too. If you don't want to drill new holes, just add it to existing ones. And let's see, the fan's just grounded right up there, and that helps from running additional wires and bolts. We just grounded it out right next to it, and so it kind of keeps it cleaner. We just tucked away the wires. And then here's his inverter. Turn upside down so you can read it. He used an Ames inverter. It's a 600 watt to 1200 watt, and that's all your specifications are going to depend on the battery you get and whether you're actually going to use an extra battery or if you want this to run off your existing. I do highly recommend, if you're going to be running appliances such as this refrigerator he's got here, this cooler type refrigerator, which is pretty awesome, stays cool and uses little power, then you do want an additional battery. Cool. So I think that covers just about anything. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, when you're working with DC power, you just got positive and negatives. Make sure your fuses are all the right rating for what you're using. As here, it's harder to tell with these fuses, but he's got a 10 amp and a 5 amp. So the refrigerators are rated for about 8 amps, I believe, and the fan was right around 4. So if that's your rating, you always want to go with the next fuse above that rating so that it's capable of handling that, but it's not going to overload it when it does need to go. Like if you ground out your wire or something and your fuse is going to blow. Cool. And then so you can see there's our inverter, power's on. So that's all working right now off the additional battery, and whenever he turns off the car, that relay that we talked about earlier right here, this relay shuts off the power to the battery in the back so that it's not going to be draining this battery when the car's off. So all this relay does is just switches it on. We added this extra wire because this is the ignition wire that tells it when to switch on and off. And you see here, we ran it inside this fuse relay center. And we went to, as you can see here, it's got labels. Zoom in on that. The AC enable relay. So what you have to do is you go to the AC enable relay right here. Let's see if I can focus. Doesn't seem to want to focus. It might be too close. There you go. So go to the AC enable relay, and then you're going to pull it out and you use a test light when you turn on the ignition to find out which wire comes on with the ignition and turns off with the ignition. You're going to have one that stays on all the time and then one that turns on with the ignition, and you're going to want to connect to that one but on the back side. So what you got to do is open up this fuse relay and take this wire, run it underneath where it's out of the way, and then connect it to the back side of the ignition on the AC relay. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow this relay to turn on and allow your alternator to power that additional battery when the car is running, and then turn it off when it's not. I'll draw out a diagram for you. You got positive coming from your battery right there. We had to add a we had to actually cut this back on this GM. They've got a rubber covering around it, and it's really hard to add additional things to that. And so what we did is we got a longer bolt. This nut is actually just a spacer to keep it tight, because the depth on this battery is only so much. So we put that as a spacer so that we could get it tight enough with the depth of the battery. And then we just cut off this rubber that's encasing it so that we could add this additional connector right there. So it comes off of this through your fuse, And then, so you got pre-relay fuse. It's going to come into your relay. So it's connecting to, and these terminals actually don't matter. You got one small terminal. Well, it's real hard to see. That one that's kind of to the left of the big one is going to my ground, which is just right here, so you can see. So I'm using existing bolts to mount this. That might change with your car. You might have to drill bolts, but it's always nice to use existing ones if you can. And it's good to be in an accessible spot, so if you ever have to access this or work on your car or take your battery out, you can still do that without removing everything. And then, so these two are interchangeable, this one and the ground, and same with these, as long as you connect them to the respective things. So this could become ground, or that could, and then this could be the relay switch, and it'll work inversely for each one that you want on there. A lot of those bigger connections we had to make, like say like that one or these ones to put those connectors on there, you can't really do that with crimping pliers, so you need something for bigger gauges. And when you get something like this, you set that crimping edge in there and then you tap it with a hammer. So that's a good thing to have. We use that a lot.
Yeah, mainly what you need is you need a drill, and then
yeah, drill for drilling the holes, or like when we ran the wire underneath the van, we needed that, and for putting ground wires in, that came in handy. So for some of those smaller connections, there you go. So you
got these off Amazon?
Yeah, you see it's color coordinated, red, blue, and yellow. So that works well for things like these fuses. So you got the red connectors, blue connectors, and sometimes yellow, and you want to use the respective color on the crimps to get the right connection. If you got questions or comments, or I didn't explain something, I might have missed something, just let me know, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. And so will Justin Dahl here.
Thanks for watching, guys.